coming up on Lawmakers. Governor Barnes announces a plan to create more green space. We'll have the latest on a bill that would allow Georgia students to talk about religion during school meditation time. And how are budget cuts affecting last year's teen prostitution law?
Live from Atlanta, this is Lawmakers for Wednesday, January 23rd. Here are your hosts, Gerald Bryant and Susan Hoffman.
Good evening, everybody. Also on tonight's broadcast, a live interview with Senate Majority Leader Charles Walker.
Budget hearings continue at the Capitol. We'll let you know what happened today.
But first, tonight's lead story. Governor Roy Barnes says that he wants to expand his green space program.
2 years ago, Georgia established a community green space initiative. The goal, permanently protecting 20% of Georgia's lands and waters for future generations. This morning, the governor announced the Sea Island Company's intent to donate over 10.2 acres of coastal property to the initiative. David Zelski is live from the Capitol with more. David.
Well, Gerald, this land is the first major donation in the Green Space program. Now it's made up of 4 marsh hammocks with an appraised value of $2.26 million. Hammocks are small island uplands surrounded by marsh or tidal waters. Hundreds of island hammocks surface along the Georgia coast. Governor Barnes is proud to see this program working and thanks the Sea Island Company and the Nature Conservancy for donating their entire portfolio of hammocks that met the legal criteria for development.
The demographers that look forward and see where growth trends are said that the Georgia coast is the next big growth region for the state. And that the population may substantially increase in there in the next 25 years. So it's critical that we preserve and set aside these spaces before development comes.
Ranging in size from 0.6 to 5 acres, this green space plan is a major step in the right direction for the program. Reporting live from the Capitol, I'm David Zelski for Lawmakers.
Okay, thank you, David. And for more information on that land, you can go to www.seaislandnews.com. The site includes a few aerial photos of these hammocks and more information on the Sea Island Company.
As you may recall, in 1988, Atlanta was host to the Democratic Convention, always big money for the city. Now talks are resurfacing for 2004, and both parties have their eye on Georgia.
We'd like to have both the Republican and the Democratic convention. And I think that if the city and the state goes after them, they ought to try to go after both and see which one turns out. But of course, it's a great economic generator. It was a great economic generator in 98 or 88, and you know, it's something that I think that should be pursued.
An Atlanta Journal-Constitution online poll had 56% preferring the Republican convention for 2004. But again, either party would mean a lot of money for the city of Atlanta.
And now we're going to continue our series of exclusive leadership interviews with Senate Majority Leader Charles Walker joining us live from the Capitol. Thanks for being with us today, Senator.
Thank you, Gerald.
I know you have been involved in the budget hearings that are going on this week. What are your impressions so far, and how is Augusta and the folks in your district faring in these budget cuts?
Well, the budget cuts are pretty severe across the board, 5% for 2003 and 2.5% for the supplemental budget. Augusta's faring as well as anyone else, but these are very tough times. But Georgia is in better position than most states similarly situated.
David Say is director of the Public Safety Department, and he is saying, please, he's saying to the Appropriations Committee, please don't cut anything out of my budget. I can't afford it right now in the wake of September 11th. Do you think it's possible that his department could be exempted?
Well, it's possible that it could be exempted, but you know everyone is having to contribute to the problem. But I think that because of the Homeland Security Initiative, I think that we will look at his budget very closely, and I think that when it comes to the security of our state, we will be very judicious.
During the midst of all these budget cuts, there's also some positive news, too, and the Cancer Coalition, which was the initiative introduced by the governor last year, is getting up into full speed. There are going to be, according to Russ Toll, as many as 3 cancer research centers that are certified nationwide, and the Medical College of Georgia in Augusta looks like it's going to figure prominently. Is it likely that that will be one of the 3 designated cancer research centers in the state?
Well, I think the Medical College of Georgia is a natural. I mean, it is the healthcare institution for the state of Georgia. We have the scientists, we have the eminent scholars. The governor has put in the budget, proposed in the budget, $10 million to start the Cancer Research Center. So I think it's only natural that the Medical College of Georgia be in the forefront of cancer research and cancer initiative in the state of Georgia.
Secretary of State Kathy Cox was up today, and she had talked about electronic voting and how it would be ready for the fall. But I believe you expressed some concern, and you'd like to see that electronic voting come in during the primary, if I'm not mistaken, so that people can kind of get up to speed. Are you alone in this, or are other lawmakers concerned as well about voters coming to the polls and not being quite sure what to do with this new electronic equipment?
Well, I've been talking to a lot of the legislators, and they are concerned about it. To be honest with you, I'm very concerned about it. But I think Kathy Cox is doing a good job, and I think that I will trust her judgment. The problem is you still have the digital divide in Georgia. You have a lot of people who are just simply afraid to go to a computer, and I do not want to see us wait until the November election, which will be the final election, and people go in to vote and find out that they have to use a computer and get scared and walk away.
Senator, let's move on to another area, and that is reapportionment. During a good part of the summer in August and September, you all were involved in reapportionment, redistricting House and Senate seats, as well as the congressional districts. Now, looking forward to February, it looks like a couple of the Senate districts are going to be questioned. Do you have any comments or any predictions as to how that might turn out and what the courts might say about those districts?
Well, so far, I think we're going to be okay. There is a possibility that the 2nd senatorial district, the 12th senatorial district, as well as the 15th senatorial district could be put into play. If that is the case, then I think that the legislature should resolve the issue rather than allowing the courts to do so. But I believe that we can get this thing solved within time so that we can go ahead and have the elections, the qualifying in June.
Senator Walker, Governor Barnes is discussing with Georgia Power re-regulating one entity, potentially Georgia Power, to assist in the natural gas woes that many Georgians are experiencing. Are you in favor of sort of backing up and slightly re-regulating this industry?
Yes, I am, but I think we got to be very careful how we approach it. Now, I believe that we need to re-regulate the industry, but I think that we have to do it very carefully. You're talking about bringing in Georgia Power, which is a great company. They know how to do this, but the fact of the matter is we need to make sure that we have competition.
Senator, thank you. We covered a lot of ground. We are out of time. Again, thank you, Senator Charles Walker, Senate Majority Leader, for joining us this evening on Lawmakers.
Thank you.
Be sure and tune in to Lawmakers next week as we continue our leadership interviews with the House and Senate minority leaders. We're going to be talking to Senator Eric Johnson on Monday and Representative Lynn Westmoreland on Tuesday.
Cutting costs and coping with reduced revenues to come up with next year's budget is likely to be the most challenging issue for the 2002 General Assembly. Creating legislation to fix the problems created by natural gas deregulation may be a close second. Today, the chairman of the Public Service Commission addressed the Joint Appropriations Committee to talk about his department's funding needs. Hamilton Northcutt is live with more on that story. Hamilton.
Well, deregulation has created many problems for the PSC, and that is an understatement. PSC Chairman David Burgess is requesting $12.5 million in his budget, $1 million of that to hire 16 new employees and also buy new equipment, all of which would go to help cope with the tremendous amount of additional work generated by deregulation.
We all are familiar with the onslaught of calls and contacts we've had with natural gas deregulation. We've got 9 employees, 9 today, in our natural gas section. I seen today as I was coming over, I've been keeping count, there's another 28 bills pending on natural gas deregulation right now before the General Assembly. And my staff is frantically trying to analyze those bills so it can better help us all determine where we need to go in this process. But one of the things that we have determined in all 28 of those bills is there's no physical note at all. This commission has been asked to do more, but we've got to have some resources to implement whatever mandates that come eventually from this proposed legislation.
The collapse of Texas-based energy giant Enron has been making big headlines for weeks now. Representative Mike Snow wants to find out if Enron has had anything to do with Georgia's natural gas woes.
Could I ask you to look into that for me and us? And let us give us any information of any activities, of any and any talks, any telephone conversations, any. I know the Enron people came to Georgia on several occasions. I saw them on public television one night, talking to our public television people, expounding on the great things about natural gas deregulation.
Well, Representative Snow, I will check with the other commissioners and our staff to see if such did take place.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, getting back to the PSC's budget request, Chairman David Burgess says he knows he's asking for a lot of money in very lean times, but that money is vitally important to running his department. He's not backing away from his budget request. Reporting live from the Capitol, I'm Hamilton Northcutt for Lawmakers.
Hamilton, what else will that $12 million pay for?
Well, filling current vacancies at the PSC as well as retaining current employees are two of Chairman Burgess's top priorities.
Okay, thank you very much, Hamilton.
And for those of you with access to the internet, you can watch the story online. Just simply visit our website at gpb.org for more information. Click on Watch GPTV online, then simply follow the instructions for watching live. You can also look at past Lawmakers programs in our archives. The website again is gpb.org. Another way we try to keep you up to date on the General Assembly.
We'd also like to recommend another website that's a valuable resource for information about the Georgia General Assembly. Go to www.legis.state.ga.us/legis. That website is a great research tool that we here at Lawmakers use on a regular basis.
Child welfare advocates learned today that a program to rehabilitate young prostitutes has been hit by a second budget cut. And Wandy Lawson is joining us live from the Capitol with more on the cut's impact on Angela's house. And
That's right, Susan. Well, today Fulton County Juvenile Court officials learned that the operating budget for the brand new youth shelter had been cut in half. But when I talked to child advocates this afternoon, they said that protecting young girls from a life of prostitution remains a priority.
My son is a law enforcement agent, and he and some of his friends were talking at my house a few years ago, about 4.5 years ago. And one young lady was an undercover police officer that would stand on the corner as a prostitute. And she told me how many people she was arresting at night and how many of the young girls that she was standing out there with that she had to arrest also. And she said, you know, one was 9 years old last night. And I said, what? I said, 9? And she said, oh, most of them are under 13.
It was this revelation that led Senator Donzella James to sponsor the first of two anti-pimping bills adopted last year. The Child Sexual Commerce Prevention Act makes pimping a minor a felony, a penalty that judges say can make all the difference.
We had heard the pimps themselves say a misdemeanor or a fine of less than $1,000 was just the cost of doing business. There was no disincentive for them to get out of the business of selling these young girls.
The Crime Prevention Act also seeks to stop pimps from targeting children by forfeiting their assets.
Our hope, though, is that we can take advantage of the assets that are seized to try to get treatment for the girls who have been exploited.
According to Judge Hickson, it's often the lure of money and fame, along with disconnection from family and friends, that brings these girls out of the classroom and onto the streets. That's where Angela's house comes in, to provide shelter and counseling instead of jail to girls who have been on the streets. But with state funding for the project cut in half, organizers say it will be difficult.
We have a commitment to the community, one, to the girls. We have young women, unfortunately, who thought they would spend Christmas in Angela's house. So it's been very heartbreaking for us to know these young women and know that they're now in a detention facility. And so as an act of faith to the community as well as to them, we're going to open.
And Angela's house is slated to open on February 1st, but organizers are working to make up the difference between their operating budget and the state's funding. The Department of Juvenile Justice has currently agreed to provide $125,000 of their $400,000 operating budget. If you'd like more information about the Angela's House project, call 404-730-1156. Reporting live from the Capitol, I'm in Wandy Lawson, the Lawmakers.
Quick question before you go. We've heard about the trial of the two Atlanta pimps that's going on right now. Are they being tried under the new state laws?
Well, no, Susan. Actually, because the charges were filed before the laws went on the books, the federal prosecutors right now are trying these pimps on racketeering charges. But Judge Hickson told me today that it's more effective to use the state's pimping and pandering laws.
Okay. Thanks very much.
In other news, prayer in schools is proving to be a powerful issue again this year. Some legislators are working to give students more rights to express their beliefs. Lawmakers' Jamie Coran has details.
I couldn't think of a better right that they could offer to students. I think it would, I honestly think that's what's missing in our schools.
School prayer has been a hot topic since the 60s, when a string of cases declared prayer unconstitutional. However, in 1994, legislation was passed for a moment of silence. Now senators are hoping to give students more opportunities for expression.
The bill envisions a very fair process for every student on a daily basis is given the opportunity to stand up and relate some aspect of their religion or some aspect of their own beliefs.
The original bill prohibits school officials from determining the method or manner in which a child participates in silent prayer or meditation, but it says each child can take part in activities relevant to their belief. Basically, senators are proposing to disregard this part and replace it. The amended portions would enable school boards to authorize a period of education regarding the personal religious beliefs and experiences of students, to provide for a maximum length of time and a chance for students to speak or remain silent in regard to religious matters, and to repeal conflicting laws. Supporters of this bill say that right now, with the state our country is in, we need all the help we can get, and that means letting students have more options when it comes to prayer. Senator Don Thomas says, with the condition our country is in, we need character building. Prayer was officially declared unconstitutional in 1963 after the Supreme Court voted against a state-mandated prayer.
If the Jewish kids are allowed to say their Jewish prayers, the Muslim kids their prayers, and the Christian children their prayers, then I think you've given everybody the opportunity to start the day in their own religious belief. And that's what America was founded on, being able to express your own religious beliefs.
Right now, the bill is in the Education Committee, and plans for discussion should be sometime next week. For Lawmakers, I'm Jamie Coran.
And supporters say if this bill is passed, it could help deter the random acts of violence that have become an ongoing problem in American schools.
The violent acts of terrorism committed against the United States on September 11th have increased demand on the Georgia Public Safety Training Center. Director David Say told the Joint Appropriations Committee today that it is very bad timing for budget cuts in his department.
We have probably had more requests in the last 3 months for training that relates to all facets of terrorism. Things like hazardous materials training, intelligence, legal issues on profiling and phone taps and surveillance and bomb dog training and search and rescue, airport security, airport firefighting, and even requests from the health services system in Georgia. And I guess my comment would be this to you, that at a time when we're receiving so many more valid requests for training, it's just going to be very difficult to meet those additional requests and absorb a $500,000 cut in a $13 million budget.
Director Say asked the committee to ensure the security of Georgians by sparing his department from budget cuts.
Jim Martin, the new commissioner of the Department of Human Resources, spent much of his time explaining the proposed cuts in the DHR budget. Martin did say there was good news, including more money to hire more caseworkers in child protective services.
There is a new sense of hope in our county DFACS offices, of relief coming, of new resources available to them. And this is a second installment of 100 new positions, 90 staff members, and 10 supervisors to help us reduce the caseloads and to provide better services to families that are in need and children that we're trying to protect. This has made a big difference. We could use more. Some will argue that even with these additions, we're not going to meet the national standards. We're going to try to work within these figures to be able to come back to you next year and make a report to you that we're making continued progress in addressing the problems with our child welfare system.
But when the time came for questions from members of the Joint Appropriations Committee, Martin was asked why so many programs were being cut. Representative Bob Holmes wanted to know why some programs were being trimmed while others were being totally eliminated.
You are eliminating some programs and reducing others, and I thought that philosophically you were saying that you wanted folks to sort of share the blame where some of them are being asked to give their whole life. And that's related to, again, the question about the healthy farmers and the others where, in effect, you're saying, well, there are other state agencies that are going to be asked to perform those functions that are being performed, such as the health department, but on the other hand, you're recommending a $3.5 million cut. So if those folks aren't doing it now, and you're going to cut the health department $3.5 million, how are they going to perform additional tasks?
We're all in this financial crisis together. That's 44% of our public health division's budget. There's no way to protect them any more than we did. We started out with a $7 million reduction to the county boards of health, and by eliminating and reducing contracts, we were able to reduce that to $3.5 million. It's not a perfect budget, but it was our best effort to try to come within the 5% reduction that we had to make. And of course, you all will have an opportunity to review this and make your own decisions about that. You try to save one program, that causes you have to cut another program, and it's sort of a domino problem.
The DHR budget is almost $1.4 billion. The department also benefits from tobacco settlement funds. About $2 million of that will help cover medical costs for uninsured cancer patients.
Over $3 million of the Secretary of State's budget is going to expand the Georgia voter education program. That paves the way for statewide electronic voting in the general elections this fall. Senate Majority Leader Charles Walker asked Secretary of State Kathy Cox if it was possible to implement the electronic voting earlier than November.
I think it would be rushing it to try to get, although I think we could physically get the machines here by the August primary, I think it would be rushing it to get the voter education done that we needed statewide. Now, we are open to discussing with particular counties. There's one county, Marion County, has no equipment. Their vendor has gone out of business and they have nothing. And it's a small county that participated in our pilot project, so we may try to let them use it for the primary. Your election superintendent in Richmond County worked with us on the pilot project. I think she's interested. And so those who we think have a leg up in experience, we might try to get online by the primary, but I don't want to rush it and have a bad experience.
Let me tell you what my concern is. If we wait until the general election and these voters who do not know how to use this system, and for them to wait till the final decision before they ever get a crack at voting, scares me a little bit.
Right.
I would like to see them, if possible, and I don't know all the implications, so I'm raising a question, not telling you what to do. But it would appear to me that we will try to get this joker up and running for the primary and for the runoff, so they have two shots at using the electronic system before they make the final decision in November, if at all possible. If you will look at that, I don't know whether it can be done or not, but I don't want the first time my voters vote for me in a new district that they vote on a machine they never voted before.
Well, at some point, it's always got to be the first time. Right. A lot of people who are nervous about it being the primary. My concern is not getting it out there too early when you haven't done the voter education. And if we can do that and really hit the ground burning it up to do voter education everywhere, that's a possibility. And I'm not ruling it out, but I feel a lot more confident if we had 4 months to do voter education instead of 2 months, so that we have more chances to get this out in front of people.
Voters in 13 Georgia counties used the electronic voting system in the November 2001 elections. That test was considered an overwhelming success.
Speaking of elections, a special election was held yesterday for House Seat 16, a position left vacant by Steve Stansel, who has chosen to run for lieutenant governor. What was originally a close three-person race has been narrowed down to two. Candidates Sheila Offrey and Diane Grass will participate in a runoff on February 12th. These are all nonpartisan elections. We'll keep you updated on all the special elections during the session.
And now back to the day's events at the Capitol as the week-long budget hearings continued. Georgia's Department of Transportation is responsible for thousands of miles of interstates and state routes. The DOT must also maintain general aviation airports. Governor Barnes' 2003 budget allocates $3.8 million for maintenance. Transportation Commissioner Tom Coleman explained why he's requesting $12.5 million for capital improvements and paving in addition to maintenance.
The many rural airports that we have are in constant need of upgrades so far as the landing facilities, so far as the storage facilities, and we need very much to give some very close attention to that. Again, it has to be general funds, and I know how difficult general funds are to come by, but I request that you look as closely as you can at assisting with rural airports.
I know when we took the subcommittee on a trip throughout Georgia, and some of our rural airports still have potholes and different things, and one of the things we found in talking to the chambers of commerce and local leaders was that they needed airports in order to attract industry and that kind of thing. So I support what you're trying to do here.
Commissioner Coleman also told the Joint Appropriations Committee that he hopes funding will be approved to take an anti-litter pilot program statewide.
The Department of Motor Vehicle Safety benefits from Governor Barnes' promise to fund 4 new driver's license facilities for Gwinnett, Fulton, Cobb, and DeKalb counties. That's at a cost of $4.1 million. The governor is recommending about $3.2 million to start up an automated license renewal system. Here's DMV Commissioner Tim Burgess.
This is just the annualized cost of what it would cost for us to open up the 4 new facilities in these 4 counties that money was requested in the supplemental budget. This is the annualized cost of what it would take to continue those operations in fiscal year 2003. The second item is, again, the annualized cost of the initiative that the governor proposed in the supplemental budget to allow us to create some new automated renewal options for people to renew their driver's license, specifically mail-in, internet renewal, and IVR, which is voice recognition.
Just an FYI, we are going to be following up on that story tomorrow night as lawmakers Chrissy Knight reports on the frustration of Georgians who have been waiting in the long lines at the driver's license centers.
And finally tonight, these budget hearings are long, detailed, and let's face it, sometimes a little dry. But there are occasional moments of levity. DMV Commissioner Tim Burgess, whom we just saw, provided one of those today as he responded to a lighthearted comment by Appropriations Chairman Terry Coleman.
We've had some discussions about bureaucracies and bureaucrats. I'm assuming that you don't consider yourself either part of either one or one.
If you'll give me all this money, I'll be whatever you want me to be.
Tim Burgess, perhaps not a bureaucrat, but certainly a diplomat.
Coming up tomorrow on Lawmakers, the budget hearings come to an end, and we're going to have an exclusive interview with the Joint Appropriations Chairman, Representative Terry Coleman, and Senator George Hooks. And just another reminder for those of you with access to the Internet, you can watch this program online. Visit our website at gpb.org. Lawmakers programs are streamed live, and they are archived on that site every night that we are on the air. Stay tuned to GPTV as Nature Scene explores mammals of North America. Be sure and stay tuned for that.
And that is our broadcast for Wednesday, January 23rd. Thanks for joining us. I'm Gerald Bryant.
And I'm Susan Hoffman. From all of us here, good night.